Ever felt like job interviews are just designed to throw you curveballs?
Oh, definitely. Like you're walking through a minefield
Ooh,
sometimes.
but well, on this deep dive, we're doing something maybe a little different. We've got a specific set of materials here.
Okay.
Interview questions and answers, specifically for a resident engineer role, all sourced from interviewquestionsanswers.org.
Right. Resident engineer. Okay.
Now, I know what you might be thinking. Engineering. That's not my field. But hang on. Our mission today, it isn't really about the engineering
And
specifics.
broader than that.
Exactly. It's about extracting those universal strategies, the core principles hidden inside these questions that can help you nail pretty much any interview.
Ah, okay. So using this specific example to find general truths.
Precisely. Think of it as your express route to understanding what employers really care about, no matter the job title.
That's a great way to look at it.
Yeah.
It's fascinating how focusing on one role can really shine a light on the whole interview process, generally speaking. Because even though these questions are tailored, like you said, for a resident engineer, the themes underneath, well, they reveal what pretty much any employer is trying to figure out about a candidate.
So it's less about the what and more about the why behind the question.
Exactly. It's not just about memorizing answers. It's about getting into the employer's mindset. And that website you mentioned, interviewquestionsanswers.org.
Yeah.
It really is a bit of a treasure trove, isn't it? It covers so many different jobs, which kind of underscores that these core principles we're talking about, they pop up again and again. They're surprisingly consistent.
Okay, so let's dive in then. One of the first questions they list is, what have you done to improve your knowledge as resident engineer in the last year?
Right.
Now, okay, on the surface, that's clearly engineering, but what's the real takeaway here for someone, maybe in marketing or healthcare or teaching?
Well, the core insight isn't just about recent engineering knowledge, is it?
Yeah.
It's really about showing you're proactive about self-improvement.
Right, keeping your skills sharp.
Exactly. And staying relevant, whatever your field is.
Yeah.
The suggested answer wisely advises having specific examples ready.
Okay.
So think about it. What new skills have you picked up? What industry trends have you actually followed? What knowledge did you actively go out and get in the past year?
Mm-hmm.
Answering that shows initiative. It shows that growth mindset, the belief that you can develop your abilities, that's hugely valuable anywhere.
Totally agree. It's not just what I did before, it's what I'm doing now to get better. That continuous drive.
Precisely.
Okay, now here's one that takes let's say, a sharp turn. Have you ever been caught stealing? Or better yet, have you ever stole anything?
Wow, that is direct.
It certainly is. What's the underlying principle here? I mean, besides the obvious.
Well, the obvious answer is a firm no.
Yeah.
Right? And the sample answer doesn't hesitate, which is key.
Yeah, no ums or umses on that one?
Definitely not. But if you connect it to the bigger picture, it's fundamentally about assessing your integrity, your trustworthiness.
Your character, basically.
Yes, exactly. They're evaluating your character. And the kind of funny inclusion of a pen or paper, it acknowledges those tiny, maybe unintentional things.
We've all accidentally walked off with an office pen.
Right. But it immediately draws a hard line, affirming your ethical boundaries about anything serious. It's about establishing honesty and showing you understand professional ethics.
Makes sense. Okay, moving on to something that feels a bit softer. How do you think your colleagues at your last job would describe you?
Ah, yes. This feels like a chance to brag a little, maybe.
Maybe, but I suspect there's more to it than just listing positive traits.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This isn't just fishing for compliments like, oh, they'd say I'm great. The real insight here is the chance it gives you to build a consistent story about who you are professionally.
Consistent with what? Your resume.
Exactly. Consistent with your resume, your cover letter, everything you've presented so far. The advice and the source, be positive about previous experience, highlighting your own strengths. That's crucial. The interviewer is looking for backup, for details. If you said you're a great team player on your application, well, here's where you give a specific example that proves it, framed as how a colleague would see you.
Got it. It's about reinforcing your claims.
Right.
And then we hit the classic. Can you describe your ideal boss supervisor? The suggested answer is, well, very emphatic. Never, ever, ever criticize a past supervisor or boss. Why is that such a hard rule?
Because it speaks volumes about your professionalism and, frankly, your ability to handle workplace relationships.
So complaining makes you look bad.
It really can. Criticizing a former manager, even if you feel justified, can raise red flags. The interviewer might worry, are you difficult to manage? Do you blame others instead of taking responsibility?
Hmm, I see.
The advice to think about whether you take instructions well or work well as part of a group ties right into that. These are core workplace skills.
So it's less about designing your fantasy boss.
Much less. It's more about showing you're adaptable, that you can work effectively under different kinds of leadership.
Okay, question 5 is pretty direct. What can you offer me that another person can't? This feels like the moment to really sell yourself.
It is. This is your unique value proposition moment. The advice to talk about your record of getting things done and show an employer your value is spot on.
How do you do that effectively, though?
Specifics.
Yep.
You need specific achievements, ideally quantifiable results pulled right from your experience, your resume, maybe a portfolio if you have one.
Right.
Now, the source material suggests saying something bold like, I'm the best person for the job. That might feel a bit much for some people.
Yeah, that takes some confidence.
It does. But it highlights the need for confidence, backed up by proof. If you say something like, my passion for excellence sets me apart, you have to immediately follow with, for example, in my last role, I achieved X by doing Y. Give them the evidence.
Concrete examples, again, seems to be a theme.
It's always a theme in interviews.
Okay, let's tackle the inevitable strengths and weaknesses. Question 7. What are your greatest professional strengths? The advice is be accurate, relevant, and specific. Sounds like a universal recipe.
It really is. So instead of just saying, I'm a good communicator, which is pretty vague.
Everyone says that.
Exactly. The suggestion is to use sharper phrases like persuasive communication or maybe relationship building. And crucially, back it up immediately with a concrete example that shows that strength in action.
And relevance is key too, right?
Absolutely paramount. You need to tailor your strengths to what the job description is actually asking for. Show them you fit this role.
Okay, and then the flip side, the one people often dread, what is your biggest weakness?
The dreaded weakness question.
Yeah. The guidance here seems to be about walking a tightrope. Be honest, but don't shoot yourself in the foot. Avoid cliches, but also don't confess your deepest flaws.
Precisely. It's a delicate balance.
Yeah.
The examples they give of what not to say are actually really helpful.
Like, I work too hard, or I'm a perfectionist.
Those are the classic cliches to avoid, yes. The goal isn't to reveal some fundamental character flaw. It's really to demonstrate self-awareness.
That you know yourself.
Yes, and that you're committed to development, both personal and professional. So if you do identify a genuine minor weakness, the absolutely critical part is to immediately explain what you're actively doing to improve it or manage it.
Showing proactivity again.
Always.
Now, the source also mentions a few brain teasers. Things like, why are manhole covers round? Or how many basketballs would fit in this room? These seem a bit odd, maybe, for a resident engineer role.
They could feel odd, can't they? But what's interesting about these curveball questions is that they're often less about getting the single correct answer and more about seeing how you think, your problem-solving process, your reasoning skills under pressure.
So how you approach it matters more than the answer itself.
Often, yes. I mean, the explanation given for the round manhole cover, practical structural reasons that shows logical thinking.
Right, it won't fall in.
Exactly. And for the basketball question, the sample answer, 1. You did not ask, what is the maximum number? Well, that shows attention to detail, maybe a bit of lateral thinking, or even just careful listening.
So it tests how you handle ambiguity or unexpected problems.
Precisely. How you tackle something unfamiliar.
Okay, then there are questions really focused on dealing with challenges. Like, explain me about a challenge or conflict you faced at work as a resident engineer and how you dealt with it. The advice points to the STAR method.
STAR.
Yeah.
Situation, task, action, result. It's such a useful framework.
Useful across the board, not just for engineers.
Oh, absolutely. It's perfect for almost any behavioral interview question in any field. It forces you to structure your answer clearly.
So you don't just ramble.
Exactly. It provides a narrative that showcases specific skills like conflict resolution, problem solving, communication. And the emphasis in the source on staying professional, staying calm under pressure. That's universally important.
Yeah, employers want to know you won't fall apart when things get tough.
Definitely. For a resident engineer, maybe dealing with contractors arguing on site, it's obviously crucial. But that underlying skill, handling conflict constructively, applies everywhere.
Makes sense. Okay, finally, a very common question, usually right at the end. Have you got any questions for me, Kiris?
Yes, the do you have any questions moment.
The advice here is interesting. It says steer clear of asking about salary or vacation time right away.
Probably good advice for a first interview, usually.
And instead, consider asking if the interviewer has any reservations about your candidacy. Whoa, that's pretty bold.
It is bold, isn't it? But think about what it shows. Confidence, for one,
True.
and it shows you're genuinely engaged in the process. You're not just passively answering questions. It gives you one last chance to tackle any potential concerns head on and reiterate why you're a great fit.
It kind of flips the script a little.
It does. It subtly shifts the dynamic and underlines your serious interest. It's a power move. Use carefully.
So, reflecting back on this whole deep dive,
Right.
looking at these resident engineer questions, but thinking broadly, what are the key lessons that really stand out? The ones that apply to almost anyone listening?
Well, first, I'd say the absolute, undeniable importance of preparation. Thorough preparation.
More than just glancing at their website.
Oh, much more. Knowing your own experience inside out, researching the company deeply, and really thinking through how you'll answer those common behavioral questions. Using frameworks like STAR really helps.
That groundwork builds confidence.
Yeah, it absolutely does. It prepares you for almost anything they throw at you. And second, I think, is the power of framing.
Framing. How so?
Framing your experiences, even things you might see as weaknesses, in a positive light. Emphasizing your commitment to learning, to growth, and always focusing on solutions rather than just problems.
Showing you're forward-looking and constructive.
Exactly, that proactive, solution-oriented mindset.
Okay, great takeaways. And maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on. Consider those unexpected brain teaser questions we talked about, the manhole covers, the basketballs. What fundamental abilities are they really trying to test? And how can you practice or cultivate those underlying skills like maybe logical reasoning, creative thinking, grace under pressure, so you can handle the unforeseen in any interview you face, no matter what the job is?